At this moment, the skeleton warrior charged forward with his large blade. Meanwhile, the skeleton mage cast spells from behind. A dense barrage of elemental attacks engulfed the enemy. Suddenly, a roar echoed. The monster actually charged through the elemental attacks. It wasn't dead. The focused attacks of 100 skeleton mages, even a high-level demon at level 40, would be severely injured, but this monster in front of me only suffered minor injuries. As I cast an inspection spell on it, its information panel appeared. Traits: affected by abyssal energy, defense enhanced, vitality enhanced. Seeing the information from the inspection spell, Lin Moyu understood. The monsters here were closely related to the abyss. They existed because of the abyssal energy. Although their levels were suppressed, their attributes were inferior to a level 40 high-level demon, but their traits were strong. Both defense and vitality were greatly enhanced, granting them even greater combat power. So, even the focused attacks of 100 skeleton mages couldn't instantly kill it. Its 3-meter-long blade struck the skeleton warrior, producing a metallic clashing sound. The skeleton warrior only paused slightly, but didn't retreat a step. With the skeleton warrior's superior attributes, as long as the enemy's attacks didn't have special effects, there was nothing to fear, no matter how high the defense, or how strong the vitality. It was just a matter of a few more strikes. The skeleton warriors at the front used their furious strike skill. Their blades, glowing red, landed on the monster. Instantly, it was covered in wounds, but there was no blood spraying out. Only black smoke continuously rising from the injuries. The battlefield wolf demon didn't even feel pain. It ignored the attacks landing on it. If it were a demon, it would have fled in pain long ago. At this moment, 10 skeleton warriors simultaneously unleashed a round of skills. The skeleton mage's second round of focused attacks also landed on it again. This time, the battlefield wolf demon couldn't withstand it. It first let out a strange sound. Then its entire body emitted black smoke and disappeared without a trace. The system notified me that I had killed a level 34 battlefield wolf demon. Experience gained, 680,000. The experience reward was twice as much as that of a same level abyssal demon. But this was, after all, a level 30 dungeon on hell difficulty. Such experience rewards were to be expected. I frowned as I looked at the spot where it disappeared. Just like the monsters in the elemental planes, there was no corpse. This meant that my corpse explosion skill was restricted. So, I could only push forward step by step. And just as I stepped into the next area, the world was completely enveloped in darkness. Only a faint light. Visibility became very poor. All light entering this area was swallowed by the darkness. The only source of light now was the flickering soul flames in the skeleton's skulls. So I condensed a soul flame in my hand for illumination. But it only lit up a small area. At this moment, a golden light flashed in Ake's eyes. The assassin's skill had been activated. Assassins were originally creatures of the night. The night was their best ally. In their world, darkness was even more friendly. So many monsters. Ake exclaimed softly. He saw numerous monsters hidden in the darkness, but I couldn't see them. So I asked him to point out the monsters' locations, and I would handle the killing. Hearing this, Ake was delighted. Ever since exposing the dragon assassins, he had been like a decorative vase. But now he could be useful again. Then, Ake pointed out the specific locations of the monsters, and I immediately sent the skeleton warriors to engage in combat. Although clearing them one by one wasn't as satisfying as mass killing, it was still efficient and safer. There were many monsters here. Sometimes several monsters would be attracted at once. It's just a bit more effort. After continuous battles, I've realized that the monsters here only have slightly stronger vitality. There's nothing else special about them. Even on hell difficulty, this place is much easier compared to the Dragon Clan's frontline outpost dungeon. Along the way, our experience points have been skyrocketing. By the halfway point, my experience had reached 99%, and Nini leveled up directly. Nini couldn't help but say, "This is hell difficulty? It's too easy." After killing a few more monsters, I finally leveled up as well. After leveling up, the number of skeleton warriors reached 140. I decided not to use the upgraded mental energy for now. Without knowing what the boss is like, it's better to save the mental energy. It might come in handy. As we continued to push forward, we unknowingly cleared the dark world. The difficulty of the monsters in the latter half didn't change, but they became more densely packed. Basically, we had to face 2 or more monsters at a time. Encountering 4 or 5 wild rats at once was normal, but I didn't feel anything about it. After all, the skeletons were the ones doing the frontline damage. They don't tire, feel no pain, and fear no death. There's no one more dedicated than them. Suddenly, Ake spoke up. "Moyu, do you feel like it's getting brighter here?" However, I had already noticed the difference earlier. As we killed more and more monsters, the pitch-black environment had indeed become much brighter. But Ake looked puzzled. "Why do I feel like the statues are getting darker?" "They are indeed getting darker, because every time we kill a monster, the dark energy they emit partly dissipates into the air, and partly flows into the statues. The death of the monsters seems to be a ritual to awaken the boss, and the dissipating dark energy, I noticed, seems to be flying toward the human realm. I'm certain my observation isn't wrong. As we eliminate the abyss monsters, the power of the abyss weakens, while the power of the gods strengthens. Moreover, the energy from the dead abyss monsters flows into the statues. The dungeon seems simple, but the real challenge might be the boss. After all, this is a level 30 hell dungeon. It can't be this easy. If it's just like this now, any team could carefully lure the monsters and kill them one by one. Not just a full 12-man team, but even Shi Zinon's team could manage it with some effort. Who would have thought? that the Hell Dungeon hides such a shocking secret? After I killed the boss of the Dark World, a mysterious figure appeared in another world, calling my name. It turns out that after Ache and I entered the Hell level dungeon, we witnessed a great battle that had taken place in the past. Then, two paths appeared before us. One led to the Dark Abyss world, and the other to the Bright Human world. So, I chose to head to the Abyss world without hesitation. I thought I could kill monsters along the way, and gain a lot of military merits. But I found that the monsters here were much weaker than in other dungeons. My skills didn't improve at all, only the massive boss statue kept changing. This made me suspect that the real challenge of this dungeon lies in the boss, and in the nightmare difficulty Shizenon mentioned, there were no such changes. Moreover, the nightmare difficulty didn't have what we saw at the beginning. If it did, he would have mentioned it. Shizenon described their strategy in great detail. Although some parts matched, others were completely different. This shows that the mechanics of Hell difficulty are entirely different from nightmare difficulty. The final boss statue in the nightmare dungeon wasn't as large, only 30 meters tall, not nearly as towering as the current 100 meters. Generally, the larger the size, the stronger the power. I grew increasingly cautious. At this moment, the Abyss world brightened slightly, and the presence of monsters became visible. Ache could finally relax her eyes. So far, this dungeon hasn't been challenging, which is precisely what feels off. How could a Hell difficulty dungeon be this easy? As monsters were killed one by one, the sky grew brighter. The night was almost completely gone. Only a few scattered monsters remained. The boss statue had become so dark it was indescribable, several times darker than the deepest ink, and at its center, a faint light glowed. The statue began to tremble, as if awakening was imminent. Once I killed the last few monsters, it would fully awaken. With a serious expression, I told Ache, "Go to the foot of the mountain. Don't come closer." Ache understood that her presence might become a burden to me, so she told me to be careful, and left the area. With no more worries, I ordered the skeleton warriors to quickly clear out the remaining monsters. When the last monster was killed, the darkness of the Abyss world completely vanished. The statue began to rumble loudly. I knew it was about to awaken. Standing at its feet, I felt like an ant. The overwhelming pressure from its massive size made it hard to breathe. Then, the stones on its body began to rapidly fall off. Soon, a giant black panther-like monster emerged. It looked exactly like the Demon King I saw when I first entered the dungeon. Then, its attribute panel appeared, a level 36 Elemental Panther King. With all 4 attributes at 15,000, it possessed 2 skills, Elemental Explosion and Elemental Sweep. Its traits were Extreme Speed, Life Force Enhancement, and Defense Enhancement. I immediately realized it wasn't the true Abyss Demon King, but a monster constructed from absorbed Abyss energy. This explained why its attributes were inferior to a true Abyss Demon. However, its balanced attributes were similar to the Skeleton Warriors. The Extreme Speed trait gave it incredible speed, while Life Force and Defense Enhancement greatly boosted its survivability. I knew that to defeat it, I first needed to limit its speed. Although the boss's size was intimidating, it also provided opportunities against the agile Skeleton Warriors. And with the slow curse, its massive size would become a liability. Just like the dragon I saw during my class change, it fell to the Skeleton Warrior's blades. At that moment, the Elemental Panther King fully awakened. It looked down at me, an ant in its eyes, and let out a deafening roar. A fierce wind erupted, and the 4 elements surged violently. Countless fireballs and ice shards rained down from above. I quickly activated my defensive skill, blocking all elemental attacks. Then, I cast the slow curse. Countless red chains tightly bound it. The restrained Elemental Panther King roared in anger, using all its strength to break free. Even as the ground beneath it cracked from its power, it couldn't break the chains. Seeing that it couldn't escape for now, it swung its massive claw at me with full force. At that moment, its extreme speed trait was fully unleashed. Even under the slow curse, its claw left after images as it descended. Yet, I didn't dodge. With a loud crash, the ground shook. The Panther King seemed to realize something was wrong. Its claw stopped midair. It turned out that my seabone armor blocked his attack. Judging from his attributes, his physical attack power wasn't much higher than the Dragon Clan Outpost Guardian. So with the seabone armor, I had nothing to fear. And while he was attacking me, the skeleton warriors leapt onto his body. All 140 skeleton warriors unleashed their skills simultaneously. As the skeleton warriors' blades struck him, streams of dark energy surged out of the Elemental Panther King's body and flew toward the human realm. The skeleton warriors entered their meat-chopping mode again, their blades hacking at the Elemental Panther King's body. Each attack, a wisp of dark energy emerged. Then, I summoned the remaining skeleton mages. Just like with the Outpost Guardian, I surrounded the Elemental Panther King with them. This way, he couldn't attack all the skeleton mages at once. As the skeleton warriors unleashed a round of skills, and the skeleton mages launched a wave of elemental attacks, the Elemental Panther King's size shrank significantly. His originally 100-meter tall body was now only about 90 meters tall. Seeing this, I shook my head slightly. Too weak, but suddenly, the Elemental Panther King let out a furious roar, as if being injured by ants was a great humiliation. Then, he unleashed his skill, Elemental Explosion. Massive surge of elemental energy erupted from his body, instantly blasting dozens of skeletons away. The range of the elemental explosion rapidly expanded, even hitting some skeleton mages tens of meters away. Seeing this, I was shocked. This skill was almost identical to the Elemental Queen's skill. However, the Elemental Queen needed her ring to use it, while he didn't. Clearly, he was superior in elemental control. Recalling the scene I saw when entering the dungeon, I instantly understood how the elemental planes came to be, how the elemental realm was born, and how the elemental queen came into existence. It was all caused by that ancient forbidden spell battle. This elemental panther king was one of the participants. Unfortunately, the dungeon only mimicked the external form, and its level, attributes, and skills were all restricted. The imitated elemental panther king was inferior to the elemental queen in every aspect. The same skill was much weaker. At this moment, the skeleton warriors, after being blasted away, charged back again. Barely injured, they completely ignored the elemental panther king's attacks. In my eyes, this big guy was just a tough, slow-moving target. His most proud trait, speed, was rendered useless by the slow curse. It didn't take much effort, just a bit more time to wear him down. As the attacks continued, the elemental panther king's size kept shrinking. Soon, his height dropped to 70 meters. But then, in his rage, he activated his second skill, elemental sweep. His fur turned into whips, lashing out wildly, each strike infused with various elements, creating both physical and elemental damage. For a moment, wind, thunder, ice, and fire clashed, creating a dazzling spectacle. Unfortunately, it was all flash and no substance. The skeleton warriors still ignored him. In my eyes, this big guy was just a thick-skinned punching bag. His most prized speed was neutralized by the slow curse. It didn't take much effort, just a bit more time to grind him down. But the weaker the elemental panther king seemed, the more I felt something was off. This hell difficulty dungeon was even easier than the outpost dungeon. A full 12-man team, with decent coordination, could easily clear it. But this was a hell dungeon after all. It couldn't possibly be this simple. Could it be that choosing the human path would make it much harder? But I quickly dismissed that thought, as the elemental panther king grew smaller and weaker. His traits, which seemed impressive, only prolonged his life by a few minutes. When he finally turned into a wisp of black smoke, completely dissipated, the entire dungeon was now devoid of darkness, completely dominated by light. Then, the system notified me that I had killed the elemental panther king, rewarding me with 2.16 million experience points, and a gold-tier elemental staff. The experience was decent, but the loot was underwhelming. Just an elemental staff, with stats inferior to the Hell Outpost staff. This wasn't the kind of drop expected from a Hell difficulty dungeon. Then, the dungeon exit appeared before me. Is it over? Something felt off. It felt incomplete. At that moment, Ake ran over, pointing toward the human world in the dungeon. There's something there. The human world in the dungeon was radiant with light, and a mage appeared in midair. He was surrounded by elemental energy, holding a staff. He wasn't a real person but a construct of energy, just like the elemental panther king. However, his aura was far stronger than the elemental panther king's. As I looked at him, he also looked down at me. Our eyes met, and suddenly, a deep, authoritative voice echoed, "Come find me." Hearing this, my pupils dilated. For a moment, I felt a chill run down my spine. Looking at Ake, she showed no reaction. It seemed only I could hear the voice. Who would have thought that behind this near-death hell difficulty dungeon lay the inheritance ground of ancient deities? And who could have imagined that the final boss of the dungeon was a fragment of a divine mage's soul? Just as I was about to exit the dungeon after clearing the dark world, a deep voice echoed in my mind. "Come find me." The voice came from the human world on the other side of the dungeon. Though I didn't know who was calling me, my instincts told me I had to go. So, I told Ake to wait for me here. Ake understood what I was doing, and reminded me to be careful. Then, I led my skeletons toward the human world. But as soon as I stepped into the human world, I was shocked. Compared to the dark, lifeless abyss world, this place was a vibrant, sacred world, full of life. They were complete opposites. In the distance, a humanoid monster appeared. I quickly used an inspection skill, and its attribute panel appeared. To my surprise, its mental and physical attributes were even higher than the elemental panther king's. Clearly, it was a magic-based monster. It seemed that after I destroyed the dark world, the dark energy was absorbed by the human world, greatly enhancing the monsters here. They went from elite monsters to hell-level enhanced elite monsters. And most importantly, these monsters were the mage-type monsters I disliked the most. Not only could their fire repulsion rings knock back my skeleton warriors, but their magic shields also protected them. Additionally, they took half damage from physical and elemental attacks, making them extremely resilient. Defeating them would be a challenge. But since I was here, I couldn't back down. So, I summoned my skeleton army. The skeleton warriors charged forward with their blades, while the skeleton mages raised their staffs, unleashing a barrage of elemental attacks. But the next moment, a blue light flashed around the mage's spirit. A magic shield instantly appeared around him, blocking all the skeleton mage's attacks. Then, a fire repulsion ring erupted from his body, instantly knocking back the frontline skeleton warriors. This was the mage's fire repulsion ring skill, which could ignore levels and attributes, acting as a control skill. Fortunately, I had enough skeleton warriors. Even if a few were knocked back, more followed. The next moment, the skeleton warriors' blades struck the magic shield repeatedly. The shield began to distort, and a few more strikes would shatter it. But then, the mage spirit activated another skill. Flaming meteors rained down from the sky. As countless meteors struck the ground, the earth turned into a sea of fire. Yet, the skeleton warriors stood in the flames, unfazed, still gripping their blades and staring at the enemy. After enduring dozens of strikes, The magic shield finally shattered with a loud crash. At that moment, the skeleton mage's skills landed. The next second, I received a system notification. The monster was defeated. Killed a level 36 Hell-enhanced elite monster. Gained 1.96 million experience points. I continued deeper into the human world. Along the way, I encountered no other monsters. Except the mage-type monsters I disliked. There were about 20 of them in total. After another hour or so, I finally cleared out all the mage monsters. Soon, I reached the final boss. The mage I had seen earlier opened his eyes and looked at me. "Kill me," he said. I was stunned. This humanoid mage monster could speak, and seemed to possess independent consciousness. His first words were to ask me to kill him. As I pondered this, he slowly stood up. He looked almost like a normal person, unlike the other humanoid monsters I'd encountered. The differences were stark. He wore a mage robe, also conjured from energy. As he stood, he instinctively adjusted it. These actions indicated he had consciousness. Unlike ordinary monsters, this was the first time I'd encountered such a situation. The mage held a fiery red staff in his hand. Seeing this, my pupils contracted slightly. This staff wasn't conjured from energy, but was a real piece of equipment. He slowly raised his head and looked at me. "Want to know why? Kill me, and I'll tell you." But this sounded strange. How could he speak after dying? As I pondered this, he raised his staff, and a massive fireball shot toward me. It carried scorching heat, and moved at an astonishing speed. The skeleton warriors quickly blocked in front of me. The fireball struck a skeleton warrior and exploded. The skeleton warrior's body cracked, and flames burst out in all directions. At the same time, I activated my sea bone armor to block the residual flames. Seeing this, I was shocked. This mage's attack was incredibly powerful, far stronger than the Elemental Panther King. Perhaps after defeating the Elemental Panther King, most of the dungeon's energy had concentrated in this mage. Even the energy from the humanoid monsters might have been absorbed by him. If that were the case, he had gathered almost the entire dungeon's energy into himself. The mage's voice echoed again. "If you can't kill me, I'll kill you." Then, he raised his staff and began chanting. In that instant, the entire dungeon trembled. Seeing this, my expression changed drastically. At that moment, the dungeon exit disappeared, and even the dungeon escape tool became useless. To leave the dungeon, I had to kill this boss. Thinking this, my eyes hardened. I raised my hand and summoned my skeleton army. The next moment, the skeleton warriors and skeleton mages attacked simultaneously. At the same time, I used an inspection skill on him. His attribute panel appeared. A level 39 boss. Though his strength and agility were average, his mental power was a staggering 40,000. Moreover, he possessed 5 skills. For a professional, strength isn't just about attributes, but also skills. This elemental archmage, he must have been a mage-class professional in life, reconstructed by the dungeon's energy after death, retaining the characteristics of a mage. With 40,000 mental power, he surpassed the elemental queen, making him the strongest single-attribute boss I've ever encountered. Coupled with his 5 skills, this gave me a headache. But there was no turning back now. I ordered the skeleton warriors to charge at him. Their bodies glowed red as several skeleton warriors simultaneously activated their skill, Frenzy Strike. But at that moment, a blue barrier instantly appeared around the boss. This was his skill, Magic Shield. The skeleton warrior's strikes landed on the shield, causing it to burst with dazzling light. Its shape began to distort, but it returned to normal half a second later. This was the strongest magic shield I'd ever seen. I then activated my skill, Soul Flame, the only skill I had that could ignore defense. In the next moment, a flame exploded above the boss's head. The damage caused his entire body to tremble violently, but he didn't make a sound. Before he could recover, I activated the slow curse again. Bound by the chains, his speed drastically decreased. It seemed he hadn't expected me to have a curse skill. His expression finally changed, a mix of surprise and satisfaction. At that moment, the skeleton mage's attacks followed. A barrage of elemental attacks completely engulfed him. For a moment, fire and wind clashed, and lightning flashed. The 4 elemental attacks continuously struck the magic shield. In the next second, the shield shattered with a loud crash. The skeleton warrior's attacks then landed on the boss's body. Suddenly, beams of light struck the skeleton mages. The skeleton mages hit by the light instantly stopped chanting their spells. This was the boss's skill, Silence, which could render mages unable to use any skills. As the beams continued to shoot from the boss, the skeleton mages fell silent one by one. Seeing this, I quickly recalled the skeleton mages who weren't silenced. Now, I could only rely on the skeleton warrior's physical attacks. As more skeleton warriors charged at him, he tried to retreat. But under the slow curse, it was difficult for him to move. Meanwhile, I continued to cast Soul Flame on him. Each soul strike caused him immense pain. But then, the frontline skeleton warriors suddenly stopped. Chains appeared around their bodies. This was the boss's skill, Chains of Wind. At the same time, blue light flashed around the boss, and the magic shield reappeared. He continued to activate skills, trapping several skeleton warriors with each use. In the blink of an eye, over half of the skeleton warriors were immobilized. It seemed that relying on the skeleton warriors to break the magic shield was almost impossible. Now, I could only rely on myself. In the past, I could sweep through dungeons using my corpse explosion skill, but in this dungeon, there were no corpses to use for the explosion. So now, Soul Flame was my only useful skill. Fortunately, the boss's magic shield couldn't block it. As I continuously cast Soul Flame, the boss's expression grew more twisted and pained. Then, he raised his staff and shouted, "Inferno Apocalypse." Complex, mysterious star patterns formed beneath his feet, quickly turning into a pentagram. In an instant, the sky turned crimson, and countless flaming meteors rained down. Both the range and power of this attack surpassed the mage who had ambushed me earlier. I quickly activated my seabone armor for defense, but the skill's range was too large, leaving me no room to dodge. So, I decided to fight to the end, seeing who could last longer. I endured the meteor shower while continuously using soul flame, replenishing my seabone armor periodically, but this quickly drained my mental energy. Fortunately, before entering the dungeon, I had prepared a large supply of recovery potions. In the end, Inferno Apocalypse lasted a full minute. The entire area was reduced to ashes, before it finally stopped. At that moment, a beam of light shot from the boss's staff. He tried to use the silence skill to restrict my abilities, but silence had no effect on me. My seabone armor made me immune to all control and negative effects. Seeing this, the boss's expression shifted slightly. He didn't continue using Inferno Apocalypse, but switched to Explosive Flame, a single target skill, though not as powerful as Inferno Apocalypse. It could be used repeatedly. Explosive flames continuously struck me, bursting into flames before my eyes, but with the defense of my seabone armor, I stood my ground, while also casting soul flame as quickly as possible. After dozens of exchanges, the boss finally ran out of health and collapsed to his knees. He then dissipated into countless blue lights. Congratulations, you've killed the level 39 Elemental Archmage. Experience plus 3.9 million. Obtained the Shattered Divine Rock Staff. Obtained a Space Crystal. Obtained a Divine Talent Stone. Obtained a Flash Ultimate Skill Scroll. Seeing the rewards, I was stunned. The items dropped were all priceless treasures. The staff was a legendary weapon, and despite being damaged, its stats were incredibly high. The Space Crystal could be used to create a teleportation array. The legendary Divine Talent Stone could guarantee the awakening of a talent during the third class advancement. Even the Flash Skill Scroll was worth a fortune. At that moment, Ache arrived. When she saw the staff in my hand, she was shocked. You actually got the Divine Rock Staff here? It was once the exclusive weapon of the Divine Mage, Shu Yan. At that moment, the Divine Rock Staff emitted a bright light, and a figure emerged. He looked exactly like the boss I had just fought. I quickly pulled Ache behind me, and activated my seabone armor. Young man, don't be nervous. A deep voice came from the figure. The figure gradually became clearer, and Ache exclaimed, You're Shu Yan. The Divine Mage Shu Yan looked at Ache curiously. Little girl, do you know me? I've seen your portrait in the Divine Museum, and there's information about you there. It turned out this mage was once a divine level powerhouse of the Divine Empire. To be precise, only those above level 90 could be called divine level, and he had once reached level 91. I had single-handedly cleared a hell difficulty dungeon, and unexpectedly activated the ancient inheritance ground of deities. Not only did I obtain the legendary Divine Rock Staff, but I also gained the priceless Talent Awakening Stone and Space Crystal, and this Space Crystal contained the coordinates to the Abyss. I immediately decided to hand it over to the Empire's higher-ups upon my return. But the Divine Mage Shu Yan shook his head. The Space Crystal is already bound to your soul. Only you can use it now. To others, it's just a useless crystal. The Divine Talent Stone is also soul-bound. He then looked at me expectantly. Have you awakened a talent? I nodded, admitting that I indeed had a divine-level talent. Comprehensive enhancement. Hearing this, Shu Yan's face lit up with joy. Then, during your second-class advancement, you must awaken another talent. I know it's difficult, but you must strive to achieve it. That way, when you reach level 70 for your third advancement, you can use the Divine Talent Stone to awaken a third talent. With 3 talents combined, your strength will reach an astonishing level. In thousands of years, only one person in human history has ever possessed 3 talents. His eyes were filled with hope, a longing for the future. He hoped that humanity would produce another top-tier powerhouse with 3 talents. I could clearly feel his deep love for humanity. So, I told him I would do my best. But why did you choose me? Shu Yan replied with a proud expression. Those trash players aren't worthy. Giving it to them would be a waste. I'd rather let these things rot here than give them to those failures. However, some time ago, there was a young girl who was quite impressive. I was almost tempted to choose her. Unfortunately, she entered with a team, which was a bit of a letdown. Speaking of which, that girl looked somewhat similar to you. As he spoke, his gaze lingered on me. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly took out a photo and showed it to him. Senior, are you talking about her? It was a photo of me and my sister. Yes, that's her. That girl had great talent, but she was still a bit lacking. Hearing news about my sister, I finally felt relieved. Knowing she was safe put my mind at ease. Perhaps I'll see her during the professional tournament. From Shu Yan, I also learned that my sister was already level 35 at the time, but that was a few months ago. Now, she might have reached level 40. However, Shu Yan reassured me, level isn't always important. Look at you, you're only level 27, yet you can solo a level 30 hell difficulty dungeon. In all of humanity, there's no one else like you. Moreover, your class is unique. In my era, I'd never heard of skeletons possessing combat power that surpasses their level. However, your skeleton army has a fatal weakness. They're easily controlled. If you can awaken an anti-control talent, your combat power will reach a terrifying level. Shu Yan spoke at length, sharing many insights with me. Perhaps it was because he hadn't spoken in years, so he wanted to say everything he had missed. Ache and I listened attentively, because we knew that once we left, he would cease to exist. Finally, I left the dungeon with Shu Yan's wishes. However, as soon as I emerged, I attracted a lot of attention. Holy cow, am I seeing this right? They actually cleared the hell difficulty. Dungeon 3, I wonder how they did it. Another player joked, their class is good. And they have a talent. How can we ordinary players compare? Scythe and his team, who had been waiting nearby, quickly approached. Tell us, what's the hell difficulty like? When I described the monsters and the boss I encountered, he couldn't help but gulp. Not just him. His teammates also shivered, upon hearing the details. And when they heard there was a second boss, Scythe and his team completely abandoned any thoughts of attempting it. Then, Scythe asked me if I plan to continue farming hell dungeons. I replied, next, I'm heading to Battlefield 3 to hunt demons and earn military merits. If my goal was solely to level up, this dungeon's restriction on using corpse explosion would significantly slow my progress. It would be better to return to the Academy's dungeon hall and find a suitable dungeon to grind. Although I had already completed the task Bai Shen assigned me, I wasn't in a hurry to return. Since I was already here, I might as well kill more demons and earn more military merits. So, Ake and I headed to Battlefield 3 to hunt demons. If we could find the spatial rift, that would be even better. But such opportunities are rare. After I left, Scythe and his team didn't leave. Instead, they waited for the dungeon cooldown to reset. Their levels allowed them to handle ordinary monsters without issue, but encountering a group of demons would be dangerous. So, they preferred to wait here, rather than risk their lives. In Battlefield 3, most people were like them. Those who could become demon hunters were mostly level 36 or 37 professionals. There were even level 40 advanced professionals who had completed their second-class advancement, but even they weren't completely safe. Teams often suffered casualties. Liang Yu watched as we disappeared into the thick fog, murmuring, Junior Lin is really impressive. Only level 27, yet he's hunting demons in Battlefield 3. Scythe replied calmly. He can solo hell difficulty dungeons above his level. Demons are nothing to him. As they spoke, a beam of light suddenly lit up the sky, followed by the blaring of alarms. Everyone present was jolted awake. The light and alarms came from the nearby human base. Several high-level professionals rushed out of the base, shouting, demons are attacking. Prepare for battle. The deafening sound echoed across the land. Some stood up nervously, while others seemed indifferent, as if this was nothing new. Probably, a large spatial rift has appeared nearby, but at most, 100 demons will come through, along with a few thousand monsters. With so many of us here, we can handle them easily. But Liang Yu suddenly exclaimed, oh no. Junior Lin went in that direction. Hearing this, Scythe broke into a cold sweat. Even the base guards, high-level professionals, were mobilized. It was clear how powerful the attacking demons were. There might even be high-level demons among them. Lin Moyu was strong, but if he encountered a high-level demon, it would be a different story. Thinking this, Scythe couldn't help but worry. Meanwhile, on the other side, a massive spatial rift suddenly appeared before Ake and me. It was at least twice as large as the one I'd seen before. Then, countless crimson eyes appeared within it, and demons rushed out in a frenzy. They crossed the spatial rift with a bloodthirsty aura, entering the human world. Delicious humans, here I come. The demons roared as they descended, but before they could even take in the sight of the human world, blades, glowing with red light struck them. Screams filled the air. Then, the skeleton mage's elemental attacks followed. Kill notifications kept popping up. The remaining demons tried to flee, but I wouldn't let them escape. I raised my hand and cast the slow curse. Instantly, they were immobilized, unable to move. In the blink of an eye, all the demons were reduced to corpses. This time, Ake and I gained a total of 800 military merits. Then, a second wave of demons emerged from the spatial rift. However, I didn't throw corpses into the rift to detonate them this time. Instead, I waited for them to charge out before killing them. To avoid alerting the Flame Demon King inside again, I knew my limits. If I faced him again, I couldn't guarantee I'd escape unscathed. As more demons poured out of the rift, the number of corpses I detonated gradually increased. This continued until no more demons emerged. This time, I gained nearly 1,000 military merits. My military badge on my chest shone brightly. I had finally become a 1-star lieutenant. Ake was only 600 merits away from reaching 1-star lieutenant. After clearing the 6th wave of demons, we had each gained over 5,000 military merits. Ake also successfully advanced to 1-star lieutenant. Just as I thought the spatial rift was about to disappear, pairs of crimson eyes appeared within it again. This time, there were fewer, but they were more spread out. Clearly, high-level demons had appeared. My hidden strength was finally revealed for the first time in Battlefield 3, after killing the 5th wave of demons. Emerging from the spatial rift, I thought the demon tide was over. But then, several high-level demons appeared within the rift. With their strength, once they entered Battlefield 3, they would undoubtedly become the leaders of all demons on the battlefield. Plus, they can summon beings that are crowned by the world. They are highly likely to hunt down the entrance of the world dungeon. They just had bad luck running into me. Soon as they emerged from the spatial portal, a violent explosion hit them head-on. After letting out a scream, they were blasted away. However, as high-level demons, their strength, attributes, and vitality far surpassed those of ordinary demons. A single corpse explosion could only injure them. When they saw the ground littered with demon corpses, they realized that the demons who had gone out earlier were all dead. Another violent explosion struck, and the 4 demons were severely injured again. I didn't give them a chance to resist or struggle, and immediately activated the corpse explosion skill twice more. Soon, they left this world with endless frustration. This time, both Ake and I gained 2,000 military points. The spatial portal began to distort. Although red eyes appeared again behind the portal, the unstable spatial channel prevented them from coming out. Seeing this, I smiled slightly, and ordered the skeletons to throw 2 corpses into the spatial portal. As the corpses entered the portal, I activated the explosion skill. With a loud bang, the corpses exploded, and screams echoed continuously. Kill notifications kept popping up, and both Ake and I gained 7,000 military points. Another star lit up on my military badge. Now, my military points reached 22,000, and my rank was promoted to 2 stars. Ning Yi jumped for joy beside me. My rank has also been promoted. At this moment, the spatial portal began to collapse, leaving behind a field of demon corpses. Next to the number 3 battlefield world dungeon, hundreds of professionals stood ready, but no matter how long they waited, no demons appeared. The base's warning was not wrong. A large spatial portal had indeed appeared nearby, but why were there no demons? Now that the spatial portal had disappeared, not a single demon was seen. So, the base guards advanced toward the direction of the spatial portal, and the professionals followed. After walking for a while, they only saw demon corpses scattered everywhere, some piled up like small hills. This was clearly man-made, but whose work was it? Who could have killed so many demons in such a short time? And among them were several level 40 high-level demons. Could it be that some big shot happened to pass by, and casually took care of them? Everyone was lost in endless speculation. However, Shi Xing'an felt this scene was very familiar, because it matched my usual style. He had already guessed that this was my doing. Even Liang Yu quickly realized, with Lin's strength, he could definitely do this. I was worried for nothing earlier. They finally breathed a sigh of relief. Shi Xing'an waved his hand. Let's go back and continue dungeon runs. Once we reach level 35, we can also hunt demons for military points. The others studied the demon corpses for a while but found nothing. In the end, they could only retreat. At least the demons were dealt with, which wasn't a bad thing. Over the next few days, Ake and I continued to roam deep in the number 3 battlefield. Unfortunately, we didn't encounter any more spatial portals, so we could only hunt scattered demons. After 4 days of hunting, our military points increased a bit more, but we were still some distance away from 3 stars. Ake suggested it was time to return. With only 3 days left before the professional competition, we would rest at Shajin Academy for a day, then meet up with Zhang Taotao and the others, and head to Nanheng City for the competition. I calculated that it was about time to return. I also needed to go back to Shajin Academy to submit the mission. However, at that moment, the teleportation stone Mo Yun gave us suddenly reacted. Ake exclaimed in a low voice, "It's the battlefield ghost king." Without hesitation, she crushed the teleportation stone. A pitch-black humanoid monster suddenly appeared before us. It was the level 39 world boss, the battlefield ghost king. It randomly appears between battlefields 1 to 3, and each appearance lasts only 30 minutes. No one knows where or when it will appear next, making it extremely difficult to find. If we're talking about the bosses with the fewest kills worldwide, it's definitely one of them. This time, the battlefield ghost king appeared in Battlefield 2, and coincidentally, Mo Yun found it. But besides Mo Yun, another group had also found it. On the ground, a team of 12 professionals was launching attacks at Mo Yun. The mage's skills were dazzling, exploding like fireworks in the air. Mo Yun, riding her unicorn, dodged the attacks swiftly in the air. The unicorn was enveloped in a ball of light, similar to a mage's magic shield, blocking attacks while also firing holy energy balls in retaliation. Unfortunately, the professional team had 2 knights, who took turns blocking Mo Yun's attacks. Individually, their strength and professions were no match for Mo Yun, but they had numbers, and a well-rounded team composition. Mo Yun was alone, so the fight was at a stalemate. Mo Yun was tied down and couldn't break free. At that moment, another 8-member team was already attacking the battlefield ghost king. If they managed to defeat it, it would take at least a month for the battlefield ghost king to reappear. Mo Yun frowned, wondering why we hadn't teleported over yet. She had been waiting for us for so long. She was eagerly anticipating my arrival, as my strength might turn the tide. Just as the thought crossed her mind, the space around her twisted, and in the next second, Ake and I teleported in. At the same time, spells flew toward us, and archers unleashed a barrage of arrows. Mo Yun directed her unicorn to block the attacks, but some still landed on Ake and me. Fortunately, the bone armor blocked all the damage. Ake quickly asked what was going on, and Mo Yun explained that she had found the battlefield ghost king. But the dynasty guild happened to be nearby. It didn't need to be said that this was a boss fight. Such conflicts were common in the wild, especially for a world boss that dropped soul-extinguishing crystals, which were highly sought after by major guilds. When I heard the name Dynasty Guild, I recalled the incident at the West Sea Mine dungeon. My gaze turned cold. As I looked at the people attacking below, I recognized their uniforms. They were indeed from the Dynasty Guild. Seeing this, a faint smile appeared on my lips, and the aura around me turned colder than ever. At that moment, a furious shout came from below. Lin Moyu. I looked down and saw Wang Hao glaring at me with intense hatred. Mo Yun whispered beside me, "He's the young master of the Dynasty Guild. The guild is here for him, to find the soul-extinguishing crystals." Hearing this, I understood. The Dynasty Guild wanted to use the crystals for his class evolution at level 40, to become a more powerful legendary class. But Wang Hao had just reached level 20. Wasn't this planning a bit too early? At that moment, the sound of skill explosions came from nearby. The other team from the Dynasty Guild was already attacking the battlefield Ghost King. If they succeeded, it would be a long wait for the next opportunity. Mo Yun was extremely anxious. What should we do now? For a moment, she was unsure of what to do. Although she knew I was strong, she didn't know exactly how strong. After all, below us was an entire team of Dynasty Guild professionals, all between levels 35 and 38. She wasn't sure if I could handle them, but I just smiled and said, go install them. Don't let them take down the boss easily. I'll deal with the people here. Mo Yun nodded, then reminded me to be careful. Before riding her unicorn toward the boss, the Dynasty Guild members tried to stop her, but Wang Hao ordered them to deal with me first. As the young master of the Dynasty Guild, his words were almost a command. Besides, dealing with me was much easier than dealing with Mo Yun. After all, I was only level 27, and Ning Yi was only level 26. In their team, apart from Wang Hao, the other 11 members were at least level 35, with the highest being level 39. Dealing with a level 27 professional like me should have been a piece of cake. Wang Hao glared at me, his anger growing. If it weren't for you during the exam, I wouldn't have received such a poor evaluation, and I wouldn't have been rejected by the academy. As he spoke, his emotions spiraled out of control. A red glow erupted from his body. He had unconsciously entered a berserk state. Clearly, he still couldn't fully control his class skills. As a berserker, his emotional control was inherently poor, which was why he lost control after the exam, and blamed all his failures on me. At first, I didn't understand why he harbored so much hatred, but now I realized it all stemmed from jealousy. Wang Hao, provoked again, shouted, what are you all waiting for? Kill him. A knight from the team immediately charged at me, using the skill charge. He was a level 38 knight, fully equipped with gold tier gear, making his combat power extremely high. A knight's attributes are mainly focused on strength and constitution. A level 38 ordinary knight would have a base strength attribute of over 4,000. Adding equipment and bonuses, the attribute would exceed 10,000. In Wang Hao's eyes, such attributes far surpassed mine. He seemed to already picture me being killed by the knight. I was challenging a top-tier guild's high-level professional team alone on the battlefield. Just as everyone thought I was overestimating myself, they didn't expect that the hunting game I initiated was about to begin. Right after Wang Hao gave the order to kill me, a knight charged at me with the charge skill. Just as the knight reached me, a skeleton warrior suddenly appeared in front of me, and the skill furious strike erupted instantly. The blade glowed with a red light, and the knight's face turned pale. A sense of deadly danger overwhelmed him. His instincts told him he might die if he wasn't careful. Without thinking, he immediately activated block. The level 27 skeleton warrior's strength exceeded 22,000, and with the skill's 200% boost, its attack power completely surpassed the knight's defense limit. With a loud bang, the knight's body was sent flying like a cannonball. In an instant, he was incapacitated. This scene shocked everyone. Wang Hao's face was filled with disbelief. The team's healer quickly cast healing spells on the knight. Wang Hao snapped out of it and shouted, focus fire. Kill him. Spells and arrows rained down on me. I just sneered, and in an instant, numerous skeleton warriors appeared, charging forward like lightning with a clattering sound. Skeleton mages followed closely behind, simultaneously unleashing 4 elemental skills. Hundreds of spells filled the air, and under Wang Hao and the others' shocked gazes, they were engulfed. The mages' magic shields were almost instantly torn apart. Archers activated their evasion skills, trying to dodge the attacks with agile movements. Unfortunately, the spells included not only single target attacks, but also area of effect attacks. They couldn't dodge them all. In despair, the knights raised their shields, protecting the support classes behind them. The healers continuously cast healing spells on everyone, but screams still rang out one after another. The most miserable was Wang Hao. Even though he was in a berserk state, with greatly enhanced defense, his level was only 20. A single hit left him severely injured and on the verge of death. If the knight hadn't pulled him under the shield, he would have been dead already. Now, Wang Hao howled like a cornered dog. How can he be so strong? And why does he have mage-type summons? At that moment, the skeleton warriors reached them. A few berserk skills landed, and the knights were barely holding on. They had to activate their survival skill, limit defense. The healers cast healing spells on them, but even so, they could only buy a little time. They were completely surrounded by skeleton warriors, and it was too late to break out. As the skeleton mages unleashed their second wave of elemental attacks, screams filled the air. Because the healer's spells were slightly delayed, some team members had already fallen. Wang Hao, peeking through the gaps, saw me raise my hand, and remembered the terrifying skill I had used in the battle space. At that moment, his face was filled with fear. Screams mixed with the sound of exploding corpses. After a loud explosion, only 2 knights were left alive, but they were on their last legs. They looked at me in terror, unable to understand how a level 27 professional could be so strong. But when they saw the military badge on my shoulder, they knew they were finished. To reach the rank of second lieutenant, one needed at least 20,000 military points. How many demons had to be killed to achieve that rank? Military rank was a representation of strength. At that moment, they gave up all resistance. Meanwhile, the other 8-member team from the Dynasty Guild was already fighting the battlefield Ghost King. This team was clearly stronger than Wang Hao's team. The lead knight was a second-tier advanced professional. At level 42, the team's mage and healer were also advanced professionals, and the other members were all level 39. With this team composition, taking down the battlefield Ghost King was not a problem. Although Mo Yun constantly harassed them from the air, the level 42nd tier mage kept him in check. The mage's spells were powerful, and Mo Yun's protective barrier could only block 2 hits before being shattered. Thus, he couldn't effectively disrupt their attack, although this slowed down their progress. As long as the knight could hold on, they could eventually wear down the boss. Just as Mo Yun was worrying about this, he suddenly received a party invitation from me. Without hesitation, he accepted it. Done already? He looked down, and saw that Ake and I had already arrived, accompanied by a few skeletons. The skeletons were carrying 2 corpses, the bodies of the knights from the previous team. Mo Yun quickly turned to look into the distance, but no one was standing there. Only a pile of dead bodies remained. Seeing this, Mo Yun's heart skipped a beat. Despite his cold and aloof demeanor, he had only ever fought monsters, never actually killed anyone. When I had mentioned killing people earlier, he hadn't fully believed it. Now, seeing it with his own eyes, as he was lost in thought, a massive fireball exploded beside him. He and his unicorn were sent flying. Although he wasn't injured, he was left in a sorry state. The mage who had blasted Mo Yun away sneered, as if mocking Mo Yun for overestimating himself. Suddenly, he noticed something flying toward him. It wasn't until it landed at his feet that he realized it was a corpse. And it was someone from his own guild. Before he could process what was happening, the corpse at his feet exploded. His magic shield shattered instantly, and he was sent flying. It wasn't just him, the entire team was also damaged by the explosion. Then, another corpse flew in, and with a loud bang, it exploded in their midst. After 2 consecutive explosions, the entire team was wiped out except for the knight, who had been at the front, and managed to survive. Mo Yun was stunned by what he saw. The team he couldn't handle had been effortlessly annihilated. Meanwhile, the knight tanking the boss shouted, "Grand Healer, heal me." But after calling several times, he received no response. The boss's attacks were fierce, and without a healer, he couldn't hold on for long. He had no choice but to activate his survival skill, Limit Defense. Instantly, his defense reached its peak, and the boss couldn't deal much damage to him. He took the opportunity to turn around, wanting to see what the Grand Healer was doing, but when he looked back, he was horrified to find that the rest of the team had vanished, replaced by skeletons charging toward him. His first instinct was to flee, but suddenly, a red light filled his vision, and he found his speed drastically reduced. His first thought was that he had been cursed. Before he could react, the skeleton warriors had surrounded him. A barrage of skills rained down on him. Under the effects of the curse, he couldn't dodge. Fortunately, he was still in limit defense mode, so the skeleton warrior's berserk skills didn't deal much damage. However, the duration of limit defense was greatly reduced. As the skill's duration dwindled, his fear grew. He wanted to escape, but he was surrounded by hundreds of skeleton warriors, making it impossible to break through. As limit defense was about to end, he roared, "Group protection." A glowing barrier appeared around him, similar to a mage's shield. It was a group defense skill, not as powerful as limit defense, but it could buy him some time. It was his last resort. At that moment, a corpse flew over his head, and he heard a deafening explosion. In an instant, his group protection shattered, and then, he vanished in the explosion, his screams echoing. This caused the battlefield Ghost King to lose its target, and its aggro shifted to me. Shocked, the once feared killer who had nearly destroyed the entire H nation was now stunned by the power I displayed. After I had wiped out the Dynasty Guild's professional team, the battlefield Ghost King's aggro instantly shifted to me. With a roar, it leapt toward me, its massive hand slamming down at me. Mo Yun shouted a warning, urging me to be careful, but I didn't dodge or evade, allowing the attack to land. I was confident in my bone armor's defense. The battlefield Ghost King's stats appeared on my interface. After quickly reviewing its attributes, I had a rough understanding of its capabilities. Its attributes were high, especially in strength and constitution, surpassing even the skeleton warriors. With a 50% reduction in physical damage, and the boss's formidable vitality, the skeletons would likely take a while to kill it, but as long as it didn't have any crowd control skills, there was nothing to worry about. With a wave of my hand, the skeleton warriors climbed onto the battlefield Ghost King, dealing relentless damage. The skeleton mages continued to unleash elemental skills from behind. In an instant, the battlefield Ghost King was overwhelmed by the attacks. In just half a minute, the damage dealt to the battlefield Ghost King exceeded what the previous team had done in half an hour. The battlefield Ghost King let out a screech, and Mo Yun's gaze became dazed. Fortunately, the unicorn's neigh snapped him out of it. Mo Yun broke into a cold sweat, realizing he had been charmed, but I remained unaffected. The bone armor made me immune to all charm skills. The battlefield Ghost King then used another skill, Life Drain. A red beam of light landed on me and the skeletons. The battlefield Ghost King began absorbing life force, but the bone armor glowed brightly, preventing it from absorbing any life force. As for the skeleton warriors, they had no life force to begin with, so there was nothing to drain. Frustrated, the battlefield Ghost King roared, as if lamenting its helplessness. As the skeleton's attacks continued to land, its life force rapidly drained away. Mo Yun was excited, clenching his fists. We're finally going to succeed. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Otherwise, he would have already reached level 40 and undergone his second job advancement. He had been waiting for this soul-extinguishing crystal. With this crystal in hand, he had a 60% chance to evolve his class from Holy Summoner to Saint Summoner. Both his attributes and strength would greatly increase. Most people only knew about the 5-tier class system, But even within legendary classes, there were tiers. His Holy Summoner was only a low-tier legendary class. Above it were mid-tier and high-tier classes. However, mid-tier and high-tier classes couldn't be awakened during the first job advancement. They required class evolution during the second or third job advancements. Finally, the Battlefield Ghost King exhausted its last drop of blood and collapsed. The system notified me that I had killed the Battlefield Ghost King, gaining 2.6 million experience points. The Ghost King Dagger, the Ghost King Sword, the Ghost King Crystal, and 5 soul extinguishing crystals. The Ghost King Dagger, a platinum tier weapon, increased all attributes by 800, boosted assassin skills by 60%, and had the skill void, which made the user intangible for 30 seconds, immune to physical attacks. Cooldown, 5 minutes. The Ghost King Sword, a platinum tier weapon, increased all attributes by 800, boosted swordsman skills by 60%, and had the skill Bloodthirsty Strike, which dealt damage based on the user's strength, and absorbed life force to heal the user. Cooldown, 5 minutes. The Ghost King's Heart was the main material for crafting Ghost King accessories. Platinum weapons differed from gold tier weapons, not only in their higher attributes and skill boosts, but also in one significant aspect. Many platinum weapons came with unique skills. These skills were random. So even the same platinum weapon could have different skills. Some skills were incredibly powerful, making the weapon a top-tier item, even if its attributes were slightly weaker. But if the skill was useless, the weapon might not even compare to some high-tier gold weapons. The Ghost King Dagger, the first obtained, had the skill Void, which was an excellent ability. Being immune to physical damage for 30 seconds was essentially 30 seconds of invincibility against pure physical classes, making it a god-tier skill. I tossed the dagger to Aik, who was overjoyed. She could clearly see the value of this dagger. The skill it carried was incredibly overpowered. Then, I took out a soul-extinguishing crystal and tossed it to Mo Yun. Mo Yun carefully stored the crystal. This time, we were lucky. The Ghost King's Heart also dropped. The Ghost King's Heart was the main material for forging the Ghost King necklace, a highly valuable item. If you can't find a suitable alchemist, let Aik help you find one. Aik chuckled and said, "He's the disciple of the White God. We can just leave this to the White God." Mo Yun was shocked upon hearing this. He hadn't expected me to have such a background. The White God was a terrifying figure, but with my strength, I was indeed qualified to be his disciple. Mo Yun then reminded me to be cautious moving forward. You killed members of the Dynasty Guild this time, especially their young master. They won't let this go easily. Even with the White God's protection, they might not dare to act openly, but they could still strike in the shadows. I had already considered this, which was why I had killed them so decisively. I wasn't worried about the news leaking out. The only potential issue was the Ghost King series weapons I now possessed. These weapons were extremely rare, and most people couldn't obtain them. It would be easy to trace them back to me. After all, the Dynasty Guild's leader was a top-tier professional who had completed his third job advancement. If he decided to act against me, I would be no match for him. Aik also realized this, so he assured me that he wouldn't use the Ghost King dagger until I had grown stronger. We then quickly left the area. At the same time the Battlefield Ghost King was killed. Many people nearby received the same notification. The Battlefield Ghost King has been slain. The Ghost King's heart has dropped. Everyone was shocked. Heavens, the Battlefield Ghost King was actually killed. I wonder which team was strong enough to take down the Ghost King. Even with its life drain ability, no one could have guessed that my skeletons perfectly countered the Battlefield Ghost King, preventing it from absorbing life force. Thus, dealing with the Ghost King was much easier for me than for others. Soon, the news reached Wang Wei, the leader of the Dynasty Guild. When he heard that the Battlefield Ghost King had been killed, a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. After all, his guild members had been searching for the Ghost King. When Wang Hao had failed the entrance exam, he had been deeply disappointed, but since the result was final, there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, the Dynasty Guild he had founded was still thriving. Since Wang Hao couldn't enter the academy, he decided to personally train his son. That's why he had sent a team to find the soul-extinguishing crystal for his son. With the crystal, his son could undergo class evolution and become a legendary class professional, potentially turning the situation around. However, he hadn't expected the Ghost King's heart to drop as well. Now, he was already planning how to find an alchemist. But he didn't realize that Wang Hao would never return. At this moment, Akei and I were already on the teleportation array, returning to Shajin Academy. This trip was quite fruitful. Not only did my military rank improve significantly, but I also obtained rare items like the Soul Crystal and the Divine History talent. I even encountered the remnant soul of the Divine Mage Shu Yan. All of this will become milestones on my path of growth. At the same time, in the courtyard of Shajin Academy, Elder Meng, who was drinking tea, felt his eyelids twitch twice. Then, the corners of his mouth slightly lifted. Old 4, what interesting thing did you see? Bai Shen, who was nearby, smiled upon seeing this. The professional competition is in 4 days. I wonder if he completed the task I gave him. Old Meng, can't you check for me? Elder Meng replied softly, it's no fun if I look. It's better to keep some mystery. Hearing this, Bai Shen immediately understood. You've already secretly checked, haven't you? Elder Meng just smiled and didn't respond. Bai Shen snorted coldly. He knew that if this guy didn't want to talk, no amount of questioning would work, but judging by his expression, it was clear that Akei and I were fine. At that moment, a surge of energy Bodong came from outside the courtyard. Then, I walked in. Bai Shen quickly approached me. Before he could ask if I had completed the task, I took out the required materials and handed them to him. Seeing this, Bai Shen's eyes showed satisfaction. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on the military badge on my chest. He was stunned. It's only been a few days, and your military merit has increased by nearly 20,000? Did you raid the demon's lair? Unbelievable. The once invincible first slayer, Bai Yiyuan, was finally shocked. It turned out that as soon as I returned to Shajin Academy, Bai Shen noticed the military badge on me. 2-star Sentinel? His expression changed instantly. After all, reaching 2-star Sentinel requires over 20,000 military merit, and killing an ordinary demon below level 40 only gives 100 merit. What's more, I was with a K the whole time, so half the merit from each demon killed was shared with her. This means I had to kill at least 400 ordinary demons. He suddenly asked, "Did you raid the demon's lair?" But I told him that I had only killed some high-level demons. Hearing this, Bai Shen almost jumped. High-level demons? You can just kill them like that? Killing one is already difficult, let alone several. Elder Meng, however, became interested. Tell us what happened. So I explained how I bombarded the spatial Tong Dao and dealt with the demons. Bai Shen was thrilled. That's so satisfying. The Flaming Demon King must be furious. He failed to kill you twice. His reputation is ruined. At that moment, I also told them about encountering the Divine Mage in the World Dungeon. Hearing this, Bai Shen jumped up. What did you just say? You met the Divine Mage Shu Yan? Even Elder Meng opened his eyes and looked at me, his gaze filled with curiosity. So, I recounted my experience in the dungeon. After listening, Elder Meng barely held back a smile and turned to Bai Shen. So, in Senior Shu Yan's eyes, you're just a waste. Bai Shen snorted. Back then, my class hadn't evolved. It's normal for him to look down on me. Shu Yan was a figure from many years ago. At that time, Bai Shen and Elder Meng hadn't even been born. During his growth, Bai Shen had also visited the World Dungeon in Battlefield 3 and attempted the Hell difficulty. However, he wasn't alone at the time. He was in a team. Back then, the Divine Mage Shu Yan didn't appear. Perhaps, at that time, Bai Shen was just what he considered. After all, Shu Yan himself said, "I'd rather let things rot in my hands than hand them over to a waste." Embarrassed, Bai Shen turned to Elder Meng. He snorted, "You've been to that dungeon too, haven't you?" Elder Meng quickly shook his head. "I've never attempted the Hell difficulty." Bai Shen was too angry to speak. His growth was a miracle, surpassing everyone of his era. Yet even a genius like him wasn't recognized by Shu Yan. This shows how high Shu Yan's standards were. At this point, Elder Meng reached out to me. Hand it over. I was momentarily stunned, not knowing what he wanted me to give. Bai Shen then reminded me, "If you want to turn the spatial crystal into an abyss teleportation stone, Elder Meng is the best person for the job." After hearing this, I finally understood. Elder Meng is one of the top array masters in the Divine Empire. Handing the spatial crystal to him was the best choice for crafting the abyss teleportation stone. So, I handed the spatial crystal to him without hesitation. After receiving the spatial crystal, Elder Meng summoned a small tower in his hand. The Divine Tower. I was slightly surprised. I hadn't expected the famous Divine Tower to be in Elder Meng's possession. A beam of light shot from the Divine Tower, landing on the spatial crystal. Mysterious runes began to appear on the surface of the crystal. Then, the spatial crystal started to transform. Its originally gem-like, brilliant surface began to fade, as if it had been sealed. Finally, it took the form of a teleportation stone, looking no different from an ordinary one. However, it could directly reach the abyss. Elder Meng then tossed the abyss teleportation stone to me. I've added the coordinates of the human world to it. You can use it to travel between the human world and the abyss. However, the spatial energy is limited, so you'll need to wait an hour between uses. I quickly bowed in gratitude. Bai Shen then said, "Keep that Divine Talent Stone safe. It will be of great use during your 3rd class advancement. Also, give me the Divine Staff. I'll see if it can be repaired." Without hesitation, I handed the Divine Staff to him. This item is a legendary weapon. If it can be repaired, its attributes will become even more powerful. There aren't many legendary weapons in the human world, so having one more is always better. Next, I took out the Ghost King's heart and handed it to Bai Shen. However, Bai Shen wasn't surprised. "Since you killed the battlefield Ghost King, you must have obtained the Soul Crystal as well." I nodded. 5 dropped in total. I gave 2 to a K and Mo Yu, and kept 3 for myself. Bai Shen knew that Mo Yu from the Mo family had been stuck at level 39 for over a year, all for the sake of the Soul Crystal. Class evolution isn't easy, but with the Mo family's resources, he has at least a 60% chance of success. Elder Meng suddenly interjected, "And what about your abilities, Bai Shen?" "Of course, I'm better than the Mo family." But before he could finish, Bai Shen interrupted. "Old Meng, that's not fair. You're comparing me to that old man." Elder Meng teased, "Aren't you the one who wants to compete with him? If you can't even do this, how can you compare to him?" But I heard that old man has already taken out that treasure. Hearing this, Bai Shen took a deep breath. "I, Bai Yiyuan, have never been inferior to anyone. If he's going all out, then I'm not afraid of him either. Lin, give me 2 soul crystals. I'll prepare them for your 2nd class advancement. I can't promise much, but I guarantee you'll have an 80% chance of class evolution, and a 30% chance of awakening a 2nd talent." Hearing this, I was utterly shocked. Such high probabilities were unheard of. Even Mo Yu only said he had a 60% chance of class evolution, let alone awakening a 2nd talent. This was truly astonishing. Even Mo Yu only mentioned a 60% chance of class evolution. As for awakening a 2nd talent, He didn't even have a 10% chance. Bai Shen continued, it's a pity this is your second talent awakening. If it were your first, I'd have a 90% chance of helping you awaken a talent. His words left me deep in thought. My talent came from the system. If that doesn't count as a natural awakening, then during my second class advancement, would I have a 90% chance of awakening a talent? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel excited. And somewhat expectant. If I succeeded, I might truly become the triple talent GEJ that the divine mage Xu Yan spoke of. Seeing Bai Shen's slightly pained expression, I knew he might have to pay a significant price for my class advancement, combined with everything he had done for me before. I felt deeply moved at this moment, so I bowed to him respectfully. Thank you, Lord Bai Shen. But Elder Meng shook his head, still calling him Lord Bai Shen. He glanced at the teacup on the table, hitting at something. I immediately understood. I picked up the teacup and offered it to Bai Shen. Disciple pays respects to master. Bai Yuan smiled, took the teacup, and drank it in one gulp. From that moment on, I became Bai Shen's true disciple. Bai Shen smiled. You've worked hard these past few days. Go rest well. Tomorrow, we'll head to Nanhung City for the professional competition. Strive to bring back the championship. But don't be careless. Although you're strong, there are countless GEJ in the world. Some of them might have abilities that counter yours. I nodded solemnly. I'll give it my all in the competition. After I left, Elder Meng's expression turned serious. There's something Lin didn't tell you. When he fought the battlefield Ghost King, he offended the Dynasty Guild. He even killed the guild leader's son. Hearing this, Bai Shen frowned. Why didn't the kid tell me? What's this nonsense about the Dynasty Guild? I could crush them with one hand. But Elder Meng shook his head. Perhaps he wants to handle it his own way. Or maybe he doesn't want to trouble you. In any case, don't interfere. After leaving the courtyard, I contacted Zhang Taotao to confirm our departure time for the next day. Then, I returned to Fortress Number 1. However, I noticed many people discussing the battlefield Ghost King incident. Did you hear? The Dynasty Guild's leader has arrived. Apparently, their team was wiped out. While searching for the battlefield Ghost King, not only was the Ghost King taken, but his son was also killed. Whoever did it, I have to say, well done. They've been bullying us Sanren for too long. The Dynasty Guild had a terrible reputation among GEJ, so most were happy to see them suffer. But this matter wouldn't end here. The key now was to grow stronger quickly and resolve this issue once and for all. The national professional competition was absolutely thrilling. While others struggled to kill a single Shen Yuan Mo Quan, my skeleton warriors took them down with one strike each. I even passed the preliminary round, using less than 1/1000th of my strength. When I arrived at Fortress Number 1, to enter the skill trial grounds, I learned that the Dynasty Guild's leader had come to investigate his son's death. So, I left Fortress Number 1, without drawing attention to myself, to avoid any suspicion. The next day, I went to Nanhung City with AK and the others to participate in the professional competition. The competition was intense, but my skeleton warriors made it look easy, while others struggled. My forces dominated the field. It was clear that I was a strong contender for the championship. Nanhung City, one of the few super cities in the Divine Xia Empire, is almost on par with the capital, Shaojin City. Hundreds of teleportation arrays are lined up, with countless GEJ continuously emerging from them. To accommodate the professional competition, the Divine Xia Empire has not only built numerous facilities for the Kansai J, but also provided free food, lodging, and transportation, showcasing the Empire's immense strength. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of GEJ have gathered in the square. Akei's eyes widened at the sight. How long will it take to compete with so many people? Zhang Taotao, standing nearby, smiled and explained. These are only the GEJ below level 40. The advanced GEJ after their second-class advancement are in another location. And there are just as many of them. But the Empire has already considered the issue of the large number of Kansai J. Before the main competition, there will be a preliminary round to filter out the teams. Only those who pass the preliminary round will qualify to continue in the competition. It's said that this time, over 90% of the teams will be eliminated. However, to ensure fairness, the Empire has divided the GEJ into groups, based on their levels, with those below level 70 competing in separate categories. Zhang Taotao explained the rules of the competition to us. This time, over 100 teams from Shaojin Academy are participating. I scanned the crowd intently, but my face soon showed a hint of disappointment. I didn't see my sister among the people. Okay, noticing my expression, took my hand and comforted me. Don't worry, we'll definitely run into her. I nodded heavily, telling myself that my sister just hadn't arrived yet. But then, a loud shout came from behind us. If you want to show off your love, go somewhere else. Don't block the way. The voice belonged to a tall man, carrying a massive battle axe. He was at least 2 meters tall, and his appearance suggested he was a warrior-type GEJ. He glared at me and AK with dissatisfaction. This is the path to the competition grounds, not your home. If you want to flirt, go home. I coldly glanced at him, and my icy gaze made him shiver. The aura emanating from me filled him with overwhelming fear. He immediately backed down. Fighting isn't allowed here, or you'll be disqualified. AK, aware of this rule, tugged at my arm and said, let it go. I nodded slightly. The big guy quickly hurried away, relieved to have escaped unscathed. At that moment, he had truly felt a strong killing intent. After he left, a massive screen appeared in the sky above the square, displaying all the rules and instructions for the preliminary round. The preliminary round was divided into two parts, team preliminaries and individual preliminaries. The rules were simple yet brutal. All 5-member teams were divided into groups, based on their levels, with teams in the same group facing the same difficulty. Whether a team was level 20 or 29, they would encounter the same challenges. Generally, higher-level teams within the same group had an advantage, but factors like skills, equipment, and team composition also play a significant role. So, everything was uncertain. As the examiner on stage announced the start of the preliminary round, all teams began entering the trial grounds. Through the teleportation Tong Dao, once inside, the scene before us changed dramatically. A long corridor appeared, and the sight felt strangely familiar. It reminded me of the entrance exam I had taken before. I immediately realized that the Divine Tower was being used for this preliminary round. The Cao Hei Nei Rong appeared before us. Defeat the boss at the end to pass. The rules were simple, with no additional requirements, but in practice, it wouldn't be easy. So, Zhang Taotao immediately asked Duan Gao to buff the team. Duan Gao raised his staff, and soon, various Zheng Yi Guang Huan appeared on everyone. All their stats were significantly boosted. Unfortunately, these buffs had no effect on me, but with my strength, whether I had these buffs or not didn't matter. Just as I was about to summon my skeletons to quickly end this preliminary round, a K stopped me. Don't act yet. Let us try first. If we can't make it, you can step in. I nodded in agreement. So, I stayed at the back of the team. Shortly after we entered the trial grounds, the first monster appeared. Its appearance was identical to that of an Abyss Demon Hound. However, its aura was far weaker than a real Abyss Demon Hound. Its level and stats were also much lower. Clearly, it was a monster, replicated by the Divine Tower based on the Abyss Demon Hound. Dealing with it wouldn't be difficult. Unnoticed, AK had already moved behind the Abyss Demon Hound. Her skill, Fatal Strike, activated instantly. As her dagger pierced the demon hound's body, the intense pain caused the hound to let out a howl. It then collapsed, lifeless. This was the burst damage of an assassin. Although mage skills were powerful, they required casting time, ranging from 10 seconds to several tens of seconds. Assassin skills, on the other hand, could be unleashed instantly. Seeing the monster killed so quickly, the team relaxed a little. It seemed easier than they had imagined, but I secretly smiled. It wouldn't be that simple. This trial was just beginning. At the same time, the Divine Sha Empire had opened a live broadcast to the world. Every country could watch the competition. The massive screen in the square was particularly eye-catching. It displayed the names of all the team leaders, including mine. However, the points next to my name were still at 0. As the scores of various teams kept changing, my name quickly fell to the middle and lower ranks. Some team names turned gray, and their rankings dropped to the bottom, indicating they had been eliminated. Only 5 minutes into the preliminary round, many teams had already been eliminated. This showed that the preliminary round was much harder than expected. At this moment, the highest scoring team had reached 40 points, while I only had 23 points. Bai Shen, who was watching the preliminary round, grew anxious. What is that kid doing? Other teams are already far ahead. This isn't like him at all. He then turned to Elder Meng. Old Meng, can you give me some insight? As the overseer of the Divine Tower, Elder Meng knew everything happening inside. He was well aware that I hadn't made a move yet, but he firmly refused to share any information with Bai Shen. Why the rush? This preliminary round isn't about speed, but about clearing the trial. Don't you have faith in that kid? Bai Shen laughed. That kid has the makings of a champion. A mere preliminary round won't stop him. Inside the trial grounds, facing 5 Abyss Demon Hounds, AK and the others had reached their limit. They also realized where their limits lay. Zhang Taotao then looked back at me and said, "We've done our best. The rest is up to you, Lin." I smiled. Of course. Then, I slowly raised my hand. Dark mist surged from beneath my feet, and instantly, 25 skeleton warriors appeared. With a clattering sound, they charged at the demon hounds. More Abyss Demon Hounds appeared ahead. But as the skeleton warriors swung their blades, 3 demon hounds were killed instantly, without even a scream. After all, the skeleton warriors now had over 20,000 strength. Even the Abyss Hounds from the original battlefield were instantly killed, not to mention these weakened level 27 versions. Abyss Hounds, in less than 2.5 seconds, dozens of Abyss Hounds were all dealt with, trying to escape. The onlookers were shocked. They had to strategize just to barely handle 4 hounds. 4 hounds, but in front of my skeleton warriors, it was just 1 slash. This made them feel their strategies were laughable. It's frustrating to compare yourself to others. Ake comforted them, saying, "Don't compare yourself to him. His skeletons have always been strong. Even level 40 high-level demons can be killed by them." As I joined the battle, our team's progress sped up instantly. Our points began to rise rapidly. At this point, the top few teams had stopped gaining points. Their scores were all stuck at 200 points. This meant they had reached the final stage of the assessment, the final boss battle. My true strength was revealed, for the first time in the professional competition, when Ake and the others were struggling against several Abyss Hounds. I, who had been observing from the back, finally made my move. In less than 2.5 minutes, all the Abyss Hounds were eliminated. At the same time, our ranking, which was originally behind, instantly shot to the top. Next was the final boss battle. Whoever could kill the boss first would take the lead, but the boss wasn't easy to deal with. It tested both the team's coordination and overall combat ability. Our team also arrived in front of the boss, and this boss was familiar to me. It looked exactly like the Abyss Dog Demon I had killed before. I didn't even bother checking its stats. Behind it, more Abyss Hounds appeared. Seeing this, Zhang Taotao immediately became nervous. Is that an Abyss Demon? Ake smiled and replied, it's called an Abyss Dog Demon, but this isn't the real Abyss Dog Demon. The real one is even stronger. Miao Yu asked curiously, can Lin handle it? Ake chuckled. He's killed more Abyss Dog Demons than the hounds he killed today. Hearing this, the others were shocked. They hadn't expected Lin to be so powerful. At that moment, the skeleton warriors charged at the boss. At the same time, the boss commanded its minions to charge. In an instant, dozens of Abyss Hounds rushed toward the skeleton warriors. The skeleton warriors instantly activated their skill, Furious Strike. In the next second, 3 Abyss Hounds were instantly killed. Then I used the explosion skill on their corpses. After 3 consecutive explosions, not only were all the hounds wiped out, but even the boss, the Abyss Dog Demon, was gone. Only a field of corpses remained. Then a Wei Yan voice announced, assessment passed. Our team of 5 was then teleported outside. From being ranked hundreds of places behind, we had now climbed to the top. Even my name shone brightly. The audience outside was stunned. How did they do it? They defeated the boss so quickly. But wait, the team's name looks familiar. Another spectator reminded him, don't you remember? This year's national top scorer in the exam is named Lin Nuo. The man was even more shocked. No way. He just finished the exam. How can he already participate in the level 20 category? Maybe he levels up quickly. Otherwise, how could he be the top scorer? Seeing the ranking, Zhang Taotao and the others were stunned. We're first. Their voices were filled with disbelief. But Ake casually said, this is normal. And the final championship will be ours too. Having been with me for so long, Ake was used to such results. The final victory was within our grasp. He was already used to such things. Zhang Taotao shook her head. It's not that I don't believe it. I just feel that the boss fight just now took less than 5 seconds. I calmly replied. It could have been even faster. Hearing this, Zhang Taotao and the others were speechless. What do you mean it could have been 1.5 seconds faster? Wasn't it fast enough? Anyway, passing is what matters. After all, the preliminary round doesn't care about rankings. After waiting for a long time, the second team finally teleported out. But the next second, their expressions froze. Because they realized someone was faster than them, and not just by a little. But beyond surprise, there was more dissatisfaction. At that moment, their captain walked over and said, who is Lin Moyan? His tone was filled with strong resentment. Although Ake and the others ignored him, he sensed a hint of killing intent from me. So after sizing me up, he said, so you're Lin Moyan. I'll remember you. We'll defeat you on the battlefield. After saying that, he turned and left. Zhang Taotao shook her head and said, that guy is really arrogant. But in this group, running into Lin Shuidi is just their bad luck. More and more people passed the preliminary round, while the number of eliminated teams on the leaderboard also increased. Far more teams were eliminated than those who passed. It seems 90% was really a conservative estimate. Such an elimination rate, only about 2,000 teams will pass in the end. You know, over 100,000 teams registered for the entire competition. Among them, teams below level 40 account for about 70%. If only 2,000 out of 70,000 teams remain, that's a pass rate of around 3%. 97% of the teams can't even pass the preliminary round. This also shows that the teams who pass are not weak. Soon, the preliminary round finally concluded. Then, a solemn and authoritative voice echoed throughout the venue, now announcing the preliminary round results. Level 10 to 19 group, a total of 18,352 participating teams. 552 teams passed. Level 20 to 29 group, a total of 35,000 teams. 214 teams passed. Level 30 to 39 group, 20,011 teams participated. 502 teams passed. All participants who passed the preliminary round, please gather at the competition venue tomorrow morning. Next, the individual competition preliminary round will begin. The number of participants in the individual competition is even larger, reaching an astonishing 200,000. The grouping method is the same as the team competition, with 10 levels per group. However, compared to the team competition, the individual competition attracts more attention, without the constraints of teammates. Individual strength is more prominently displayed. Then, one by one, the teleportation arrays lit up, and the trial grounds appeared. It was exactly the same as the team competition venue. Seeing this, some people began to have a bad feeling. Will the elimination rate be high again? It's obvious just by thinking about it. With over 200,000 participants, the elimination rate will definitely be high. Only about 5,000 will likely remain in the end. Soon, all the teleportation arrays were fully formed. Then, the participants entered the light screens one by one, entering their own independent spaces. Just as I was about to enter the teleportation array, someone suddenly blocked my path. It was that arrogant Tang Jianfei. Dare to compete with me? Whoever passes the preliminary round first wins. I glanced at him coldly and said, you're not worthy. After saying that, I walked past him. Tang Jianfei gritted his teeth and said, you won't compete with me. But I'll still compete with you. I'll definitely be faster than you. As everyone entered the trial, the examiner announced the official start of the preliminary round. The rules of the individual competition are very simple. Kill the enemy in front of you to succeed. Failure means elimination. In front of me appeared another Abyss Hound, with the same level, attributes, and appearance as the one in the team preliminary round. The only difference was the absence of a pack of demon hounds. However, compared to the team preliminary round, Individual round lacked the support of buffs from teammates. Secondly, there was no healer to restore health, making it much harder than the team preliminary round. But these factors were irrelevant to me. As I slowly raised my hand, several skeleton warriors appeared. Then, the skeleton warriors unleashed their skill, Furious Strike. Without a doubt, the Abyss Wolf Demon was instantly killed. Moments later, the second trial target appeared. It was a level 30 Abyss Wolf Demon. Compared to the previous Abyss Hound, its level had increased by 1. Its attributes were still trash. The few skeletons I summoned earlier were enough to deal with it. Without a doubt, it was another instant kill. Then, another monster appeared. This time, it was an Abyss Snake Demon. Its level increased by 1 again, reaching level 31. Unfortunately, it still wasn't enough. The skeleton warriors rushed forward and hacked it to pieces. The snake demon died on the spot. Then, the 4th, 5th, and 6th monsters were all instantly killed. Although each monster's level increased by 1, and their attributes improved, it made no difference to me. By the time the 7th monster appeared, a level 35 Abyss Sword Lizard, and was killed by me, the trial finally ended. A loud voice echoed through the tower. Those who passed the trial, I was teleported to the outside light path. My name was prominently ranked first. Seeing this, I immediately understood that killing the 7th monster was the key to passing the preliminary round. It seems the difficulty wasn't high. If others heard this, they would probably be furious. After all, these monsters were simulated abyss demons created by the Divine Tower. Although their levels and attributes were weakened, they were still much stronger than monsters of the same level, and their skills remained unchanged. Most importantly, there was no rest during the trial, making it much harder than the team competition. At this moment, my name shone brightly at the top. Behind my name was the number 7, indicating that I had killed all 7 monsters, while others had numbers like 0 or 1, and not even a single 2 yet. Many spectators had already noticed my name. Who is this Lin Moyu? The number behind his name is 7, while others are only at 1. Has he already finished? Impossible, right? It's only been less than 2 minutes since the start. How could it be over already? But I remember in the morning's team preliminary round, he was also the champion in the level 20 group. At this moment, all eyes were fixed on my name. My performance was too outstanding, so outstanding that it was hard for others to catch up. This was my first time participating in the preliminary round, and I had already broken a centuries-old record of the Divine Sha Empire. When I killed all the trial monsters in just 1 minute, others were still fighting the second monster. All the spectators present were shocked by my speed. Even the examiners in charge of the preliminary round were stunned. In the centuries of preliminary rounds, no one had ever completed the trial in 1 minute. Some were even eliminated in the first round. For some low-level professionals, killing 3 monsters was already considered quite good. By the 3rd monster, they were already struggling. After all, the monsters inside don't wait, and the next one appears soon after the previous one is killed. Each one stronger than the last. So, not many could kill 7 monsters in a row. Some even speculated that the elimination rate for the individual competition might be higher than the team competition. As time passed, the number of eliminated participants increased, but a few people were also increasing the number of monsters they killed. Half an hour later, the second person to kill 7 monsters finally appeared, but when I saw his name, I couldn't help but smile. Because it was Tang Jianfei. Tang Jianfei, who was teleported out, looked proud, but when he confidently looked at the light screen, he was stunned, because my name was still at the top, and the number behind it was 7. Tang Jianfei's face turned pale. He discovered his name was once again below mine. His expression changed instantly. How could it be him again? Then, he approached me, and asked in a low voice, "When did you come out?" But I ignored him. Seeing this, he snorted coldly, left a comment about meeting on the battlefield, and walked away. After waiting for another hour, a deep and authoritative voice rang out again. The individual preliminary round has officially ended. Now announcing the results. Level 10 to 19 group, 32,512 participants. 432 passed. Level 20 to 29 group, 64,352 participants. 752 passed. Level 30 to 39 group, 43,454 participants. 499 passed. The professional competition will officially begin tomorrow. Many were shocked by these results. This individual preliminary round had eliminated nearly 99% of the participants. Everyone was curious what kind of challenges the Divine Sha Empire had set that made it so difficult to pass the preliminary round. But I wasn't concerned about that. The moment the preliminary round was announced to be over, I immediately headed to another preliminary round venue. But when I arrived, the preliminary round in the advanced venue had also ended. However, the light screen was still glowing brightly, with the list of those who passed still shining on it. I carefully scanned the list, but couldn't find my sister Lin Mohan's name. Seeing this, I sighed. Perhaps my sister didn't participate in the individual competition, but I couldn't hide my disappointment. Suddenly, I froze in place. My usually calm face now showed an unprecedented expression. My entire body trembled slightly. In the distance, a figure walked over under the setting sun. She smiled gently, soft yet with a hint of pride, like a plum blossom in the cold wind. She spoke softly with a smile, and hearing her voice, I couldn't help but tremble even more. I quickly walked up to her, and hugged her tightly. A single call carried all my longing and emotions. Lin Mohan was the same. Tears silently fell from the corners of her eyes, unable to hide her longing. Only when the setting sun's rays shone on our faces did we reluctantly part. She stood on her tiptoes and measured my height. "You've grown taller. I remember a year ago, You weren't much taller than me. Like this, we sat side by side under the setting sun, chatting and laughing. But during our conversation, I noticed, my sister seemed to have been keeping an eye on me all along. She knew about me becoming the national champion, and being admitted to Shajin Academy. But why didn't she come to see me? Her answer was that it wasn't convenient, but she didn't elaborate. Lin Mohan smiled. You still talk so little. How are you going to get a girlfriend like that? There are many good girls at Shajin Academy. You should seize the opportunity. At that moment, 4 people walked up behind us. They were all wearing Shajin Academy uniforms, with a special emblem on each of their collars. This was the emblem of the Creation God Academy. The leader asked, Junior Lin, who is this? His gaze shifted to me, with a sharp, intimidating aura, but it wasn't intentional. Just a natural presence. Everyone in the Creation God Academy is a top-tier genius. Lin Mohan slowly stood up. This is my brother. I nodded politely. Hello. Seeing this, his attitude towards me changed noticeably. So, you're Xiao Han's brother. Then, Lin Mohan said, Seniors, you can go back first. I haven't seen my brother in over a year. I want to talk with him a bit more. The man agreed readily. But come back early. The competition starts tomorrow. We still need to discuss tactics. After saying this, he glanced at me a few more times. When he saw the military emblem on my chest, a glint of surprise flashed in his eyes. At the same time, I was also observing him. On his shoulder was also a military emblem, but it was a 1-star silver sentinel emblem, 1 star lower than mine. After they left, I asked my sister if those 4 were her teammates. Lin Mohan nodded. Yes, they are my teammates, and they are all top talents at the Creation God Academy. Hearing this, I smiled and said, I think you're the amazing one, sister. In just a few months at the academy, you've joined the Creation God Academy. Now, you must be at least level 40, right? Then, I asked her what her profession was, and how she leveled up so quickly. This was something I had always been curious about. Lin Mohan said softly, when I first awakened, my profession was the legendary class, Blade Dancer. Now, I've been fortunate enough to undergo a profession evolution, and my profession has become Holy Blade Dancer. Hearing this, I was shocked. I didn't expect my sister to have undergone a profession evolution. This was no longer a matter of luck or not. Profession evolution is always about the result, not the process. The process is completely unimportant. What matters is the result. Lin Mohan continued, I level up quickly. Because of my talent, my leveling speed is more than 10 times that of other professionals. And after my profession evolution, my talent has been further enhanced, and my leveling speed has become even faster. Finally, I understood why my sister leveled up so quickly. I had suspected it was her talent before, but I couldn't be sure. Now, my guess was confirmed. However, talents are inherently difficult to awaken, and there are countless types of talents. Some talents are strong, while others are garbage. Awakening a good talent makes a professional, a 1 in a million genius, and the 10x experience talent my sister awakened is the cream of the crop. As long as she keeps leveling up, even if her profession is slightly weaker, she can still suppress others with her level advantage. After all, in the later stages, even a 1-level difference can result in a huge gap in attributes. Moreover, my sister's legendary profession isn't weak, and after her profession evolution, it has become a mid-tier legendary profession, which is definitely stronger. Then, Lin Mohan continued, my teacher is very strict with me. I've been training constantly, and haven't had time to come see you. I only learned about your news from my teacher. I didn't expect you to become the national champion. You're really amazing. After saying this, she slowly stood up. I need to go back. After the competition ends, I still have to go to the place my teacher arranged for training. It might be a long time before I can see you again, Xiao Yu. Hearing this, I smiled. I'll come find you after I join the Creation God Academy. The battle has begun. My first match in the championship has finally started. However, despite being the center of attention, I deliberately held back in this match, because on the night after the preliminary round ended, the Divine Shah Empire announced the standards for the individual competition preliminary round to the world. Everyone fell silent after seeing it. It must be said that the Divine Shah Empire's standards are very high. Ordinary professionals simply can't pass. Only the most outstanding professionals can make it through. In addition, there was another major point of discussion, and that was me. Everyone wanted to know how I completed the preliminary round in just 1 minute, and was dozens of times faster than the second place in my group. However, the Divine Shah Empire did not respond to this, and people could only hope to see my performance in the upcoming matches. Early the next morning, the 100th professional competition officially began. One after another, battle arenas appeared before everyone's eyes. The competition area for professionals below level 40 was divided into 3 sections. Each section corresponded to a different level range. Just like the preliminary round, it's grouped by 10 levels. Each section has 10 arenas, allowing 30 matches to be held simultaneously. Each arena is protected by a formation, ensuring no life-threatening situations occur. There are also many healers on standby, ready to heal even severe injuries, allowing professionals to fight without restraint. This is just the scale for the sub-level 40 area. In the high-level professional competition area, the standards are even higher, with several top-tier healers above level 70, standing in the void, ready to heal participants at any moment. The audience couldn't help but praise this. The Divine Shah Empire truly lives up to its reputation as a powerful nation. The scale of this event is far beyond what small countries can achieve. In the entire world, only the Divine Shah Empire can pull off something like this. The rules of the competition are also very simple. One-on-one matches. Winner advances. The loser is eliminated. After the referee announced the rules, All teams began drawing lots. Our team drew number 512. According to the rules, our first opponent would be team 513. As the referee announced the official start of the competition, the teams at the front began stepping onto the arenas, based on their numbers. Our team was in the middle, giving us some time to discuss tactics. Zhang Taotao suggested that we focus on 5 specific teams. These included Team 8 from Britain, Team 322 from the Holy Battle Domain, Team 599 from Sakura Country, Team 733 from the Vatican Holy Land, and Team 924 from the Holy Capital Sect. All members of these teams are level 29 professionals, equipped with top-tier silver gear, making them very strong. Turns out, after returning from the preliminary round yesterday, Zhang Taotao had been busy gathering information, and had thoroughly investigated these teams. He and Ake began discussing tactics, while I was completely ignored. This time, they planned to use the same strategy as in the team preliminary round, with them taking the front lines first, and me stepping in only if they couldn't handle it. I actually agreed with their tactic, because if I went first, they would have no presence at all. At that moment, Duan Gao ran over with some information. I found out that Team 513 is from Southwest Academy. Their captain is named Luo Miao, a level 27 female knight, just like Sister Taotao. The team has 2 supports, and the other 2 are a tank and a mage. However, their specific levels and professions are unknown. Zhang Taotao said with a serious expression, if we can't get detailed information about our opponents, our 4 versus 5 situation will be very bully. Ake, however, smiled and said, we'll do our best. If we really can't win, we still have Lin Moyu. At that moment, huge light screens appeared in the air above the square, displaying information from all angles. The screens showed the information of all professionals on each arena. As the matches continued one after another, teams either advanced or were eliminated at a very fast pace. Some matches with a large gap in strength ended in less than a minute. After an hour, it was finally our team's turn. As we stepped onto the arena, our opponents, Team 513, also walked up. At the same time, the information of both teams was displayed on the light screens. Sharp-eyed spectators immediately noticed my name, level 27 Necromancer. I've never heard of this profession before. Is it a new one? But it seems like a rare mage class, and the name sounds powerful. A spectator nearby joked, brother, did you not watch the preliminary rounds yesterday? He was the champion in both preliminary rounds. Hearing this, the man was shocked. Then, his team might win the championship again? Most people believed that the success of my team was entirely due to me. On the arena, the 2 teams stood on opposite sides. Zhang Taotao and the knight named Luo Miao both assumed combat stances. Although Luo Miao was 3 levels higher than Zhang Taotao, below level 30, a 3-level difference doesn't create a crushing disparity. Everyone except me also took combat stances, while I stood lazily to the side, watching their duel. With a light sound, the match officially began. Zhang Taotao shouted and activated the charge skill, rushing forward. Luo Miao also activated the charge skill, just as both of them charged. Miao Yu activated the skill Wind Bind. Luo Miao's body suddenly froze, his skill interrupted by Miao Yu's Wind Bind, while he was affected. Zhang Taotao had already reached him with the charge skill. With a loud thud, Luo Miao let out a cry of pain, and was sent flying off balance. However, Zhang Taotao's charge skill didn't stop, and he aggressively charged into the enemy team. The enemy team clearly didn't expect this. Their buffs weren't fully applied, and their knight was already knocked down. At this moment, Zhang Taotao activated his second skill, the skill group Provoke. Instantly, the attention of the entire enemy team was focused on him, and they didn't notice that Ake had disappeared. Just as the enemy priest was about to cast a healing spell on Luo Miao, he suddenly shuddered, and a sharp pain shot through him. The next second, his figure appeared outside the arena, indicating that he had been killed. However, due to the protective formation, he didn't actually die, but was teleported outside the arena. Still, the 2 large wounds on his body remained, but the next moment, several powerful healing spells landed on him, and in an instant, his wounds were completely healed. Meanwhile, on the arena, Ake once again appeared silently, behind the enemy healer, and with 2 skill bursts, eliminated another healer. Seeing this, the archer shouted, be careful of their assassin. Then, he activated the Eagle Eye skill, and spotted Ake in stealth mode. Immediately, a barrage of arrows shot towards Ake, but instead of retreating, Ake charged straight at Luo Miao. Without their priest and healer, the enemy team couldn't heal their injuries, and their combat effectiveness plummeted. Meanwhile, Zhang Taotao kept receiving heals, and his combat power remained undiminished. Luo Miao was desperate to take out their healer, so the archer and mage simultaneously attacked Miao Yu. Duan Dao quickly pulled out a large shield, and planted it on the ground, protecting Miao Yu behind it. This move bought Ake a lot of time, and he quickly appeared behind the mage, activating the skills Lethal Strike and Internal Explosion, dealing massive damage. The mage let out a scream, and then disappeared from the arena. Seeing this, Luo Miao decisively chose to forfeit the match, as without their damage dealers, continuing the fight would be futile. Ake and the others jumped for joy, as this was the first time they had won a match on their own. However, the spectators watching the match were disappointed. The opposing team was too weak. Lin Moyu didn't even make a move, and they still lost. It's a pity we didn't get to see Lin Moyu in action. We still don't know how strong he really is. We can only hope to see him in the next match. Shocked, my skeleton mage made its first appearance. Shocked all the spectators. After the first round of matches, the number of teams in the level 20 group had been reduced from over 1,000 to 512. Although it wasn't the finals yet, many teams with outstanding performances had already caught people's attention, and my team had defeated their opponents with a 4 versus 5 situation, earning even higher praise. However, in the next day's competition, Ake and the others were completely overwhelmed. Our first match was against Team 482, whose lowest level member was level 28, and all 5 of them were rare professions. Although their team didn't have a knight, they replaced it with a sword fighter, making their team's attack power even stronger. Moreover, with the dual buffs from their prophet and priest, their elemental mage's skill power was at least doubled. Next to their summoner, the summoned beast was shrouded in dark energy, its body flickering in and out of sight. Ake's expression turned serious. It's a shadow beast, summoned by a shadow summoner. It's also known as the assassin of summoned beasts, as it can see through stealth, and also has stealth abilities itself. Its burst damage is comparable to an assassin of the same level, and it's very difficult to deal with. If the enemy summoner uses it to pin me down, it will be hard for me to break free quickly. Back frowned and said to me, if we really can't handle it, we'll leave it to you. I nodded and said, don't worry, with me here, we won't lose. This wasn't me boasting, but every match I've watched so far felt like child's play to me. At this moment, the 5 opponents were all smiles, confident of their victory. After all, in the previous match, they had crushed their opponents with overwhelming force, and this time, their opponents were even lower level, so they believed they could do it again. With the referee's signal, the battle officially began. Zhang Taotao, who was about to charge, suddenly stopped, as the enemy team didn't charge forward, but instead tightly grouped together, with the sword fighter at the front, and the elemental mage activating a magic shield. They surrounded their prophet and priest in the center, while the 2 supports quickly buffed the team, clearly planning to fully buff before attacking. Their strategy was very cautious, leaving no room for exploitation. Ake didn't dare to act rashly, as the enemy's shadow beast had already locked onto him. Even if he entered stealth, he couldn't escape the shadow beast's sight. What do we do? The enemy is turtling, and they've protected their supports. Our planned strategy is useless now. Shang Dao shook his head. We'll have to take it step by step for now. If all else fails, we still have Lin Moyu. Thinking of me, their spirits lifted slightly. Even if the 4 of them lost, as long as I was here, we wouldn't lose. At that moment, the enemy mage suddenly shouted, meteor shower. The next second, countless fireballs rained down, towards Ake and the others. Ake quickly told everyone to scatter, while Zhang Taotao activated the charge skill, and rushed forward. At the same time, the enemy sword fighter swung his dual swords in a cross-shaped motion, and a cross-shaped sword aura shot towards Zhang Taotao. With a loud bang, Zhang Taotao was sent flying back dozens of meters. Despite raising his shield to block, he still took some damage. What a terrifying skill. This was his first time facing a sword fighter, and he didn't expect their skills to be so powerful. The sword fighter laughed maniacally, leaping into the air, and his dual swords danced wildly, attacking Zhang Taotao like a storm. Zhang Taotao could only barely defend, as the sword fighter's attacks were relentless. Although there was a 5-level gap between them, Zhang Taotao didn't retreat, but raised his shield, desperately blocking the storm of attacks. Miao Yu, meanwhile, continuously cast healing spells to heal him. On the other side, Ake's figure had disappeared, and the shadow beast that had been watching him also vanished. Both of them had entered stealth mode, invisible to others, but Ake and the shadow beast could see each other. The shadow beast quickly closed in on Ake, and launched the first attack, its sharp claws slashing down at Ake. Ake dodged with a quick sidestep, then swiftly drew his dagger, and slashed the shadow beast twice. The shadow beast let out a cry of pain, as the 2 strikes caused some damage, but as a green energy flowed into its body, its wounds quickly healed. Ake immediately realized it was the summoner, as the summoner's skill could heal their summoned beast. Although the shadow beast was no match for Ake in agility, with the summoner's support, Ake couldn't deal with it quickly. Meanwhile, Zhang Taotao was also being pinned down by the sword fighter, and the enemy mage began attacking Miao Yu and Duan Gao. Duan Gao quickly pulled out his giant shield to block, but the level 29 mage, with the dual buffs from the prophet and priest, had skill power comparable to a level 30 plus mage. With just one spell, Duan Gao was severely injured, and the second spell sent him flying off the arena. The mage then targeted Miao Yu, and without a doubt, Miao Yu was also knocked out of the arena. Seeing this, the sword fighter smiled. Your team's 2 supports are out. You should just surrender. Although Zhang Taotao knew they had lost, he took a deep breath and shouted, limit defense. He wanted to make one last effort and charged towards the enemy supports. While enduring the sword fighter's attacks, the enemy mage shook his head. Stop struggling, it's useless. After saying this, he unleashed his strongest single target spell and sent Zhang Taotao flying dozens of meters. Severely injured, Zhang Taotao had no choice but to give up and turn to me. It's up to you now. After saying this, he jumped off the arena. Ake also appeared beside me and said with a light smile, dummy, get revenge for us. I nodded. You go rest for a bit. I'll finish this quickly. Ake chuckled and jumped off the arena. Now, only I and the 5 opponents remained on the arena, and the spectators were getting excited. He's finally going to make a move. I want to see what's so special about him. And his profession, necromancer, what makes it so strong? However, some people were skeptical. Even if he's strong, there's a limit, right? After all, he's only level 27. 1 versus 5, he probably can't win. That's hard to say. I think he can win. Didn't you see how confident his teammates were in him? At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the arena, where I stood, eager to see if I could win this match. On the arena, the 5 opponents were already smiling, celebrating their victory. Seeing me still on the arena, the sword fighter sneered. Your teammates have surrendered. Why aren't you leaving? Do you want us to knock you off? Hearing this, I smiled and shook my head, then slowly raised my hand, and a skeleton mage instantly appeared. The sword fighter burst into laughter. So you're a summoner too? Why didn't you act earlier? Now that your teammates have lost, isn't it too late? Or are you just trying to show off? Facing his mockery, I simply focused my mind, and the skeleton mage raised its staff, unleashing the skill, Frozen Tempest. The temperature on the arena plummeted, and a downpour of icy rain fell. The sword fighter, who had been smiling just a second ago, turned pale, and screams of pain came from behind him. Before he could check on his teammates, the icy rain hit him, instantly causing severe injuries. Heal me, he roared, charging towards me, but he suddenly stopped mid-charge, as the healing spell didn't land on him, and things weren't going as he expected. He turned around, and was horrified to see that his 4 teammates had all vanished from the arena, meaning they had been instantly killed, and it had only taken 1 skill. Instantly, a chill ran up his spine, and he was struck with terror. What kind of summon is this? Why is its skill so powerful? Meanwhile, the audience outside the arena erupted, and many people jumped to their feet, utterly shocked by what they had just witnessed. It's unbelievable. I knew he was strong, but I didn't expect him to be this strong. Just the skill from his summoned skeleton was enough to wipe out a seemingly strong team. Now I understand why he didn't act yesterday. If he had, his teammates wouldn't have had a chance to do anything. I feel sorry for his opponents. The level 20 group champion is definitely him, and the poor guys in the individual competition. Who can even fight him? My strength shocked the entire audience, and the discussions weren't just limited to the spectators, but quickly spread across the nation, and even the world. Shocked. I had only summoned 2 skeleton mages, and already shocked all the spectators. Originally, when my skeleton mage made its debut in the professional competition, my profession as a necromancer became widely known. Even scholars specializing in professions stated that in human history, the necromancer profession had never appeared before, making it a completely new and unknown profession, and they directly classified it as a legendary tier profession. Of course, whether it truly is a legendary tier profession would depend on its future performance. Some professions start strong, but weaken after the second advancement, and such professions do exist. Ache sighed. From the next match onwards, let Moyu take the lead. Zhang Taotao also raised his hand in agreement. I think so too. Winning 1 match yesterday was already our limit, especially since our levels are still so low, and the teams we'll face later will only get stronger. Without Lin, we basically have no chance of winning. Ache smiled at me and said, then it's up to you for the next matches. I waved my hand, indicating it was no big deal, as I was only after the championship rewards, and the Shining Beginner skill scroll was a must-have. Soon, it was our team's turn to compete again. But when we stepped onto the arena, we found that our opponents were actually familiar faces, ordinary students from Shaojin Academy, and I had even led them through the Tyrant Desert dungeon before. They obviously recognized me, and each of them wore a bitter smile. Big Brother Lin, we might as well just hit our heads against a wall. So, when the match began, they all bowed to me in unison. Goodbye, Big Brother Lin. Good luck, Big Brother Lin. Take the championship, Big Brother Lin. After saying this, they all jumped off the arena and surrendered. Ache looked curious. What's going on? Why did they surrender so quickly? I smiled. Probably because they knew they couldn't beat me, so they chose to surrender. The audience outside was also confused. What's going on? They surrendered before the match even started? But soon, someone who knew the situation explained. It's because they and Lin Moyu are all from Shaojin Academy. Knowing that their team couldn't beat him, it was better to just surrender outright. Hearing this, the crowd finally understood. The second day of the competition ended, and only 1/8 of the teams remained in the level 20 group, with only 128 teams left out of the original 1024. This was the largest group, while other groups had even fewer teams, such as the level 30 group, which only had 62 teams remaining. The number of teams in each group varied, and the competition schedule was different for each group. In my level 20 group, there would be 4 matches the next day, and after that, only 8 teams would remain, who would compete in the finals the day after. During this time, I also kept an eye on the progress of the higher level competitions, where my sister Lin Mohan's team was also advancing smoothly. Over these days, not only had my necromancer profession spread across the world, but as the competition progressed, my sister's name, Lin Mohan, the Holy Blade Dancer, also became widely known. Many people believed that her profession had surpassed mine, as a legendary tier profession was already impressive, and she had undergone a profession evolution during her second advancement, making her future prospects limitless. Meanwhile, in the small courtyard of Shaojin Academy, Old Man Meng asked softly, Lin boy, is it really good to be so high profile? Bai Yiyuan, however, didn't think so. What's wrong with it? I want the whole world to know that I'm not to be messed with. Old Man Meng didn't fully agree, but being too high profile will attract many enemies, and the people from Britain and the Holy Battle Domain are not to be underestimated. Bai Shen sneered, I'm afraid they won't make a move. In the past, their actions were too covert, and I couldn't find concrete evidence. If they dare to act this time, I'll make them regret it. Hearing this, a glint of light flashed in old man Meng's eyes. So, you're letting Lin Boy be so high profile in the competition, to use him as bait to lure out the snakes? Bai Shen smiled. It's not just me. Lin Boy and I discussed it. The geniuses who died in the past few years didn't die in vain. They were the geniuses of our divine Shah Empire. Lin Boy agreed to this, and from what I know, the old man over there also plans to use Lin Mohan as bait to lure out the hidden snakes. Old man Meng sighed. A hidden profession like the necromancer, and a legendary tier profession like the holy blade dancer, who has undergone a profession evolution, are indeed qualified to be bait. But no one would expect them to be siblings. Their talents are truly enviable. Bai Shen's eyes flashed with killing intent. The higher their talents, the better they can lure out the fish. It seems like it's time for a massacre. Old man Meng also sighed lightly. It's been a long time since I've taken action. It's about time to stretch my limbs. At this moment, the professional competition had entered its third day. And it was the final day of the group preliminaries. Starting tomorrow, the group finals would begin, and the finals would only last one day, with the champion and runner-up decided within that day. After the group competition ended, the even more anticipated individual competition would begin. Today's first match, we were up against Team 114, and the matchups for other teams had also been decided. Any team that made it this far was relatively strong, with an average level of at least 28. Teams like Zhang Taotao's, Duan Gao's, and Miao Yu's were extremely rare, not to mention their level 23 members. Even level 26 or 27 members were hard to find. Yet, it was our team, with the lowest average level, that was considered the most likely to win the level 20 group. And some even believed that I was guaranteed to win the championship. Zhang Taotao didn't bother gathering information about our opponents, because as long as I took action, there was no need to know anything about the opponents, no matter their tactics or skills, because in the face of absolute strength, nothing else matters. As the 5 members of Team 114 stepped onto the arena, Ake and the others instinctively took several steps back, giving me enough space. The opponents immediately realized I was planning to fight 1 against 5. And although they knew of my reputation, they didn't plan to give up. Their team composition was unusual, different from the standard setup, consisting of 1 support and 4 attackers. But this support wasn't a prophet, but a War King support. I didn't know much about the War King profession, only that it was considered the best support for dungeons, as it could both buff and heal, combining the advantages of both support and healer. The leading archer spoke up. We know you're strong, but we're not to be underestimated either, and we've already figured out how to deal with you. You're doomed. With the referee's signal, the match officially began. In the next moment, a skeleton mage appeared beside me, while the War King support simultaneously activated their skill, with a pleasant sound. The 4 archers were all buffed, with various positive status effects. This was the domineering aspect of the War King support, as unlike the prophet profession, which had to buff 1 by 1, the War King could buff the entire team at once. At this moment, the skeleton mage raised its staff, and unleashed an ice elemental skill, causing a downpour of icy feathers to fall. Fortunately, the 4 archers were fast, and quickly dodged the attack, while simultaneously firing arrows at the skeleton mage, using the skill, Impact Arrow. With a loud bang, the skeleton mage was instantly stunned, and a dizziness effect appeared above its head. Seeing this, the audience exclaimed, "What a good strategy. First control the summon, then deal with the summoner." Clearly, they knew that the best way to deal with a summoner was to first take out the summoner themselves. Now Lin Moyu is in trouble. Unless a summoner reaches the legendary level, they're at a disadvantage in one-on-one combat. However, some people disagreed. That's hard to say. I bet he has a way to counter this. Maybe he has more than one summon. Seeing my skeleton mage being controlled, the 4 archers couldn't help but look smug. It's working. As long as we take turns using our skills, we can keep his skeleton mage immobilized, and he's bound to lose. After saying this, they began attacking me, but I didn't care at all. And with a thought, a bone armor instantly appeared on my body. With the bone armor, they could attack me until nightfall without causing any damage. Then, I slowly raised my hand, and another skeleton mage appeared, but this time, it was a fire element skeleton mage. As soon as the skeleton mage appeared, it unleashed the skill, Exploding Flame. With a loud boom, one of the archers was instantly blasted away, but fortunately, he dodged quickly, and was only caught by the explosion's shockwave. The others were shocked. How can he still summon skeletons? At this moment, the audience outside the arena erupted. Oh my god, such a powerful summon, and he has more than one.